All right, welcome back. So we're going to do the last video in this app. So we're going to finish off MovieQuotes in this app. And the only piece we've got left, if you think about CRUD, right? So create, read, update, delete, is update. Update is a little harder just because we do update in a different view controller. And just anytime you kind of break from one view controller to the next, like there's things you've got to do over in that new view controller. So that's what we're going to focus on here, is sending up those edits. But since it's in a different view controller, we're also going to have to do some reads on that view controller. So those are kind of our task. So let's go just dive into the code. So go over into the detail view controller. So I'm in the detail view controller here. What we did previously, just kind of as a reminder to start with, is in prepare for segue, we were passing this, all these comments, it gets so confusing. We were passing that detail view controller the movie quote, right? So it was just getting past the one movie quote. What we want to do now instead is we want to pass a reference to a spot in Firebase to that movie quote, right? So we're going to no longer just pass them the movie, we're going to pass them a Firebase reference, and then they're going to work out the details. Let's just see it happen. So the first thing we need to do over in this view controller is import Firebase. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to say movie quote ref. So this area will be different than the other one. So the other one had a reference to like all quotes. This is going to be a very narrow view. So it's just going to be like this particular movie quote. I think I've got a good slide that actually says this. So there's the quotes ref, which goes to like the whole thing, and then a movie quotes ref is going to just like drill down and only look at like the movie and the quote. So it's going to kind of be like favorite things, right? So it's kind of like your world is so narrow, you've just got two things in it. So what I want to do is I want to capture this. So I think I'm going to make it an exclamation point, which says, hey, it'll be ready for you by the time you use it. And then over in the prepare for segue on this end, what I want to do is I instead want to pass over a reference. So really what I want to do here is I want to actually set his movie quotes ref property, and I want to set it to quotes ref dot child of this movie quotes key. It gets hard to do these things, and there should be an exclamation point in there. It gets hard to do these things, like to think about them conceptually. But so instead of just passing over a movie quote, we're going to set the reference, the movie quotes ref, and it's going to be a child of the quotes ref, right? And the child is going to be whatever the key for this movie quote is. So kind of looking at it here, so that's the quotes ref. The child is just whatever this key is, and this is a reference to Firebase. I think also in the slides I set it up a little bit differently. So I broke off the detail view controller, and then I set the movie quotes ref on it. That's a little cleaner if you want to set your style of code that way. But what I've got in here works as well. All right, so now I've got the reference that I want. Now what I'm going to need to do is do an observer, right? So find view will appear, and we're going to do the same thing we always do, right? So add a Firebase event observer for the dot value event, right? So no more worrying about children. We're just going to do the value, kind of like a favorite things. And then also, just kind of in keeping with best practice, we should set view did disappear, and keeping with best practice, we should probably call him or call his super, and then we'll just say to do remove the observer. Now, I warned you previously about the way we did it last time. So the way we did it last time is we said quotes ref remove all observers. So it was this guy right here, right there. And I warned you that you do have to be careful about that because, one view controller is disappearing and saying removing all controllers, and then the other view controller is appearing and it's making observers. And you want to make sure you don't add observers and then like instantly remove them. It's not a conflict this time because they're on different paths, right? So they're 4 different references. There are different spots in your Firebase. And so remove all observers, if you look at it, you can see that it doesn't remove them for child references, right? So they are independent. There is no problem here. So I'm actually going to say the removal first because that's going to be easy. It's just going to be my movie quotes ref, remove all observers, done. And then as far as adding a listener goes, I'm lazy. I'm going to pick one of these to kind of copy and modify. I'm going to pick the child change one purely because it's the shortest and it will have the least stuff I have to delete. So where am I at here? So, oops, I put the remove in the wrong place. So put the remove and view will disappear. Simple mistake. All right, so let's start writing this thing. So we're just going to start modifying it. So quotes ref is no longer the right thing. We want the movie quote ref. Add event type, that's all correct, but instead of child change, we want the value. Cool. If it doesn't exist, I mean, the only way it would not exist is if somebody kind of like deleted it out from under you. We could do stuff like we could take them back to the list view. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just not even an issue, not even a thing. If it comes in with good data, then we make a movie quote out of it. Here it's called modified movie quote. Instead, what I want to do is I want to actually just set it to my self.movie quote. So I've already got a member variable called movie quote, so I'll just use it. I might actually go ahead and refactor this a little bit though, and rename it. So I'm going to call it actually latest received movie quote. And the reason I'm doing that rename is just so I don't get confused, right? So you're going to be doing reads, which is like things that come down from the Firebase cloud, and you're going to be doing pushes, which things go up to the Firebase cloud. And the mistake people make is they read something and they save it to a variable, and then they modify it, and they modify that same variable, and then they send that variable up to the cloud, and then it comes down from the cloud, but the changes already happen on it. And it leads to problems, right? I had one app where I did that exact same thing I just talked about, and it was with a slider, and I was watching it, and the slider was like jumping back and forth continuously. I was like, well, what the heck is going on? And I realized I was setting the variable, and then Firebase was setting it, and then it led to a cycle of problems, right? So latest received value, it's only on the receiving of things from Firebase. When I do my pushes, I will not use this variable. That was all I was trying to say. It just kind of got long-winded. So my latest received movie quote, and then I'm going to have to say self.update view. And if you look at self.update view, you can see that it just takes this latest received movie quote and it sets some text. Cool. So at that point, I should be able to display this movie quote in the detail view. Interestingly, we had that ability before. The only thing that's changed is that if things are edited, it'll get the edits as well. It looks like I left it in a state where there's no movie quotes. I'll just add a couple on here. So I added 2 back. I did I'll be back, and everything is awesome. So now when I drill down into it, you can see it displays it. But it actually is a little better than that, because what I've actually done is I've added a listener. So if I edit these now, so if I click on edit, so I edit the Lego movie, and I say, oops, that was the wrong one. If I edit, I'll be back. So if we just kind of put some exclamation points on here, you can see that it's doing the live edit. And the reason it's doing the live edit is because my web app is doing a push on every keystroke, and then that keystroke causes the value to change. And here we've got a value listener on here, which is different than the child things we did before. Pros and cons of doing value. With value, if anything in the snapshot changes, you get the whole thing back again. That works out great for what we're doing here, because if anything changes, it's just the 2 things. It's the movie and the quote. Then we get the value. We didn't want to do that on quotes because there might be a lot of quotes. All right, so that kind of covers the read part of showing this information here. The next thing we want to do is we want to be able to click on this edit button, and we want to be able to like make changes here and have them like go places. So let's go ahead and fix that. So let's go find that area of the code. So there's show edit quote dialog, and we're going to be making some changes in here. Actually, let's let's do some prep. I happen to know that there's some variables that are going to be handy for us, and that's going to be the quote text view, quote text field, which is of type UI text field. So just bear with me. These things will make our lives easier if we just kind of prep them a little bit. And then there's going to be the movie text field. And then I'm also going to make a function called, I think, quote changed would be a good name. Great. So just bear with me that those things will be useful. Actually, I'm going to move quote changed a little lower in this method. I don't like it being way up at the top. I'll put it just below, just below the dialog, just above update view. So we're going to change the way we take action. So we want to actually send every keystroke, right? So it's going to be kind of different. So instead of this saying edit quote, it's just going to say done editing. And interestingly enough, it's going to have no action at all. So kind of like how this one has like handler nil after the word default here. So I'm just going to take all of this and I'm just going to blow it away, right? So I'm just going to say paste. And so what that did is that just pasted on handler nil. So do nothing when they hit the done button. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to listen for every keystroke. So what I'm going to do is up here in the, so I'm in the quote text field area. I'm going to say self dot quote text field is equal to this text field, so whatever came in here. So I'm just saving it off. And then I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to say text field add target. And so add target means on some event, so for some control event, call some function. And we're going to call it, the target is going to be self, so call it on me. The selector is going to be quote changed. Except for you don't do it like that. You do it, I forget the syntax. It's like at selector. This is lazy, but I'm going to let, I'm going to let Xcode type it for me. There you go. At selector, movie quote detail controller, quote changed. I'm glad I had Xcode do it for me because I would have forgotten part of it. For UI control events, editing changed. So this is anytime the text view changes, call this function quote changed, which we haven't written yet, but we will. Very similar concept for the movie, just being careful to change it to the movie text field, but it's going to call the same function quote changed. I guess I should have called it movie quote changed anytime it's edited. So we no longer have a save, we just call a function every time it changes. Whenever it changes, what we're going to do is we're just going to save off what changed, right? So edited quote is equal to, we'll just go ahead and make one here. So it's going to be the quote text field text. And then it's going to be the movie text field text. Cool. And so that's going to create a new quote for us. The only reason we're creating a quote is just because it's easier to work with a quote object instead of the individual fields. And then our goal is to push it up to Firebase. So we've got this MovieQuotes ref, which we kind of visualized in the slides. So it was this guy right here, and we're just going to push up the movie and the quote. It's already pointing to the right key, so we don't have to worry about that. We just need to push up those two values. So we're just going to say set value edited quote, and then we're going to say get snapshot value. It worked out nice that we had made that function earlier. If you go look at it as a reminder, it just takes your movie quote and converts it into a dictionary. We needed it for a different part of the app, and we can reuse it here. Cool, so that should be the last line of code we need to write. We just need to test it now. And we should have just implemented our update part of CRUD. So it should be the last little bit. So just for giggles, I'm going to go ahead and show the forge here, the database. I'm going to click on everything is awesome. I'm going to click on edit, and then as I add exclamation points, it looks like that worked. As I kind of like take off things here, you can see that it's just changing to the Lego Movie. There really is no difference between cancel and done editing, but I like to have 2 buttons on there because people expect it. I guess really it should just be 1 button, and it should just say done editing. If you want to make that change, you go right ahead, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it with the cancel and the done editing. Cool. You could also watch that same action happening on your web app. So if we just kind of have this guy here, so I'll say I'll be back very soon. You can see that it's just typing up there, I promise. That would have been very intimidating if Arnold had said that. Cool, we just finished this app. So we've got all of our CRUD methods. We had to do a little extra work because update was in a different view controller, so we had to kind of like do read over there as well. But look at all this cool stuff that we've done. Great. So I guess that kind of brings us to the summary for this app. The summary is Firebase is cool. I could say a lot more real things, but I mean, this whole real-time database of things get pushed up to the cloud and then all of your devices know about it like almost instantly. It's just really cool. You just have to know how to learn how to use this tool, right? So it's amazing. These frameworks, they just get better and better and better. And as you invest time into learning how to use them, then you can come up with new opportunities to add value. It's really great. All right, so that's it for the follow along apps in this unit. Come back next time and we'll talk about the lab. All right, see you then.